Rinder explained to me that they had literally worked out, the three of them, the Troika, had literally worked out an operation where Leah's departure from Scientology would be orchestrated, okay? And it would be reported in a way that they wanted to manipulate it being reported, which was completely and utterly an act. It was a classic troll job. Leah would act as if she were being persecuted by Scientology for disagreeing with it and for having all this scandalous, quote-unquote, information about it. All the while, she was orchestrating and having her agents create this story of her leaving. And it was done in such a way as to try to create a reaction on the part of Scientology to get Scientology. It was a sting operation to try to get Scientology to reach out to try to salvage her, to get Scientology to have people disconnect from her, all of which would be part of the ongoing story. And it was all going to be a rollout to increase her profile and to create this mystery and to create this figure who was this warrior princess, innocent warrior princess. So she'd be this innocent princess who was converted into a warrior because she was hunted down and persecuted by Scientology. Okay, that was the story. And they literally, and you know, as it rolled out, Scientology never played its part. And they just acted like it did. In other words, she never did get persecuted. She never did get hunted down. She never did get people begging her to come back. None of that stuff happened. But Rinder and Ortega just kept spinning the ball, giving the impression that it did. You know, this op that is run by Rinder, Remini, and Ortega is, and the reason why I refer to them as a troika, and as a troika, as a cluster at the top of this thing, is that they have this penchant for having one arm of them. They act like Mickey the Dunce whenever one of them does something. You know, that's how they rolled out Leah Remini in the first place. Tony Ortega literally reported as if he were onto a hot tip from a quote-unquote tipster. The tipster was Leah Remini, you know, like an insider that knew what was going on with Leah. And he literally quoted Leah's husband. He reported that he called Leah's husband and said, "Hey, we heard you're having a big break with the Church of Scientology." And her husband was reportedly said, "Oh, no, not at all. We get along just peachy keen. And if we ever did, we would resolve it with the church." And Tony Ortega says, goes all the way as to saying, "And we thanked him for being so candid," right? Well, the whole thing was scripted by Leah Remini and her husband and Mike Rinder and Tony Ortega. So it was literally made up this news. And that's how the whole thing rolled out and started. And so they continue that whole op to today, where one of them does something, the other one can say, "Well, that's not. I don't know anything about that." It was in the last episode of her first her first year of her series on Scientology, where they spent the entire episode obsessing about how Scientology had accused Leah of inspiring, disaffecting, and then inspiring this kid, Brandon Riesdorf, to commit a hate crime by throwing a brick through a window of a Church of Scientology. And it's like, aha, can you believe she's accusing me? And she's literally sitting next to Mike Rinder, who in fact did orchestrate the kid's disaffection and inspire him, getting to the point of hating David Miscavige and Scientology so much that he was willing to maim somebody. And she spent the entire episode railing about how she was falsely accused, and yet her partner had executed the entire thing, and I know firsthand that he did. So, and so when I refer to him as a troika cluster for a reason. Because if you don't, consider them as this inseparable group, it's like a chimera. You don't know where anything's coming from because it's planned and executed that way. Another example, they rail about ethics. They say Scientology has a utilitarian ethics system that's us versus them, good versus evil. And the funny thing is that literally is their system of ethics. It literally consists of if it harms Scientology, it's good. If it helps Scientology, it's evil. Period. And this is the way Mike Rinder has put it. He's literally put out on a podcast that Scientology is fair game and that you may and can do anything you want against Scientology and get away with it. Literally promoting that idea. Ortega puts it in many ways. Every day on his blog, day after day. One incident stood out to me that really sort of encapsulates what I'm talking about here. A woman took her car and rammed it through the front door of the Austin Church of Scientology, sped through the lobby, and crashed it into the church's nursery for their toddlers. When the police arrived, she said she was disappointed when they told her that she didn't hit anybody. She failed to kill anybody. And that was her only regret, that she didn't. Well, it subsequently came out that she was greatly inspired by Leah Remini. Had been watching her, reading her book, or watching her show, or listening to her ramblings, or her productions. And of course, Leah Remini just never says anything about it, right? Instead, Tony Ortega comes in. And Tony Ortega flanks for her by trying to euphemize the whole thing. He literally characterized that attempted murder as delinquency. He's got about a couple hundred people in his sheep farm, and they generate, thousands of comments a day, because that's what they do all day, is they sit there and they comment back and forth. Just as an exercise, I went through that day. Out of 2,000 comments, not a single person objected to his characterization or called him out on it. And they're all just frothing into these memes of hatred toward Scientology based on a woman attempting to kill somebody with their car.